Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to build our little SumoBot. So we need our kit of parts, which will include our PCB, which is this yellow PCB, a set of single line headers, okay, a set of sockets for those headers, and they just plug straight into it. Okay. We need our Arduino Nano. We need our cable ties, 3 standoffs, little hex brass standoffs. We need 6 little screws, M3 screws to go with them. Okay, so there's 6 of them in our kit. Our little micro switch. Now this is a slightly different one than the one that we used in the lab. This has got 4 pins on the bottom, so there's actually 4 pins there. We need 3 infrared LEDs, and these are got a clear body on them. Okay, so 3 infrared LEDs. We need 3 infrared photodiode receivers, which are the ones that look dark black or even maybe dark purple looking colour. And we need a set of just random coloured LEDs, normal of them. They can be green or red, doesn't really matter. We need 3 100 ohm resistors, 3 100 k ohm resistors. We need 3 300 ohm resistors. Let me see if I can pick all them up. There they are there. And 1 10k resistor. Chuck them in the box. There. Keep them all together for me. Another thing that we also need is our battery pack. It's got some holes drilled in the lid for us. And we need our 2 servos that we've already pre-assembled with our wheels and tyres on them. Some double-sided sticky tape and some solder. So first we'll start off with our PCB. There's 2 sides to the PCB. There's one side that's got a more of a fluoro yellow and the other side's more of a green sort of colour. So just make sure that you're putting your components on the correct side. So to identify which is the correct side, you'll notice that there's a white silk screen which is on the correct side that you put your components on. So for instance, these LEDs are placed on this side facing up because there's the white silk screen, as opposed to these ones which are placed on the opposite side because there's a white silk screen indicating that they are placed on this side, along with the switch which is also placed on this side. Okay, so the first thing is that we're going to start off with is we're going to start off with populating the resistors on our top side. Okay, so for our resistors we're going to start off with R1, which is a 10k resistor, so I'm going to go and grab that. So if you've got a 4-band resistor, 10k in a 4-band resistor is brown, black, orange, gold, gold being the tolerance. Okay, and I'm just going to pop it between my fingers. I'm just going to bend the legs over like that. And that's almost about right to go into the position here. You'll notice that it's a bit warped. I just need to give it a bit of persuasion and it'll go in. Okay, if you notice that the legs are starting to bend over a little bit like that, you just grab a pair of pliers and pull down on the leg. Just gently pull down and it will pull it into the board. Okay. So there we go, we've got our resistor in there. I'm going to bend these out to the side, and I can leave that in there, it's not going to fall out for now. So I'm going to go and grab the rest of my resistors. So resistor 2, 3 and 4, which are the ones that are just up the top here, they're 300 ohm resistors. So the 300 ohm resistors that you guys will have will be orange, black, brown, gold. And we just bend it over the same way as we did the previous one. Pop that in. Now I like to have them all facing in the same direction so that I can read them. That is with the tolerance to the right, and when I turn the board, tolerance to the right. Okay, I like to have them all facing one way. Just makes it look neat. Okay. From underneath, I'm just going to bend those legs over a little bit. Now I'm not bending them flat up against the board, I'm just bending them with a slight angle so that the resistors don't fall out. They don't need to be all the way over. The next set of resistors are these ones over here, which is 5, 6 and 7, and 5, 6 and 7, they are 100 ohms. So they are going to be brown, black, brown, gold. I'll grab all those. Again with our golds all to the right. Make it look nice and neat, professional. There we go, align them nicely. Bend them over. And we'll do the same for the 100Ks, which are our last ones. And they are resistor 8, 9 and 10. So there are 8, 9 and 10. And the 100Ks are brown, black, yellow, gold. Now that we've done that, what we'll do is we'll go through and we'll solder all of those down. Make sure our iron is nice and clean. Give it a good clean. Sometimes we need to add a little bit of solder to our iron, wipe it off. We can begin soldering. So remembering the 1, 2, 3 method, so we count 1, 2, 3, add some solder, wait 1, 2, 3 and remove. 1, 2, 3, add some solder, 1, 2, 3, remove. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, like what I said with the previous soldering video, as you get better, you'll get quicker, and you won't need to clean your iron as often. But if you're just a beginner, you'll have to clean it almost every single solder joint. Okay, now that we've done that, what we're going to do is we're just going to snip off the excess. Now if you have folded those leads all the way down, this will be a slightly harder process to do. There we go. Alright, so they're all soldered. Just inspect our joints. If there's any that we need to add some extra solder or fix them up, just re-wet them with your iron and fix them up. Okay, so yeah, we're pretty good. Okay, the next component that we're going to add is we're going to pop now in our LEDs. So, notice that we have a flat side on our LED. If you put these in wrong, you'll have to desolder the LEDs, which is going to take you a considerable amount of time. So make sure you put them in the right way the first time. Okay, so the ones that have the black casings, they go up the top. So that flat side of the LED, which is just there, you can see that there's a flat side on our LED. That flat side needs to be aligned with the D9, D8 and D7 flat side. Okay, so they're going to go up the top of your board, to the top of your board where these 4 holes are. I'm going to put all of them in. Checking for where the flat side is. I've got the flat side over here. Stick that in there. We want to make sure that they are fully seated on the ground, on the PCB. I'm going to hold them with my fingers, turn my board over. I'm just going to bend those legs ever so slightly. There we go. And so that they don't fall out. The next ones I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the infrared LEDs. So the infrared LEDs are the ones with the clear case, and again they have a flat side on them too, and you'll notice that they are all facing in the same direction. Just pop them in. So flat side over here, flat side over here. Yeah, I'm going to hold them again, flip the board over. I might use my pliers here to just get in there. And let's solder those LEDs in place. Now, when you go to cut these legs off, what you should do is you should first inspect these LEDs and make sure that they all line up correctly. Now I can see that this one here, this photodiode is sticking out a little bit. So what I want to do is I'm going to put my thumb on it, I'm going to push on it gently, and I'm going to heat up both of these solder joins at the same time until it reseats itself. And I'm going to do the same with this one, and the same with the next one, just to make sure that they're fully seated. Before you clip the legs off, leave an ever slightly small amount of lead left, so maybe about 2 millimeters. So you'll notice it's about 2 millimeters up from the join. The reason why I'm leaving a little bit of excess here is because just in case we need to pull them out a little bit later to angle our transmitters and receivers, we've got that bit of lead there to do it. Okay, so I'm not cutting them flush, not as low as I did with the resistors. So just future-proofing our PCB. Okay, so we're almost there. We're getting there now. Now what we'll need to do is we'll need to solder in our set of strip sockets. So these are the strip of sockets, not the pins, but the sockets. And the sockets are what are going to fit into our Arduino Nano. So what we do is we plug that onto the Arduino Nano. This is where we're going to have to cut it with our cutters, so make sure that they're all in there. Okay, so we're going to find where that pin is, that last pin that's overlapped. I'm going to cut it with our cutters. And there we go, that's it, it's done. Plug in the other strip onto the other side, and do the same thing again. So that's the last pin, so the next one over, right there. Now that I've done that, I'm going to place this on my board. Now the USB, it's marked as USB on the PCB. There's your USB. Make sure it's pointing in that same direction. Stick it in there like that. Turn it upside down. It'll semi-hold itself, so you don't need to bend any pins here. And we'll just solder these pins on. I don't need to access anything underneath there anymore. Okay, so I can actually leave that still connected, leave that plugged in and connected. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to solder in the rest of these header pins. So the header pins are these guys. I'm going to need a set of 4 sets of 3. That's 3. You just break them off with our fingers in the groups of 3. So 4 sets of 3. 1 set of 4. And a set of 6. Okay, 6. Alright. Pop 6 in. Might actually take my Arduino out and it'll sit nice and flush. Pop 3 in. 4 in, another 3. Okay, and this is where the back of your case comes in handy. Pop the back of the case over it, turn it upside down, and holds them all there in place so I can solder them in one go. Otherwise, solder them connector by connector. I'm just doing one pin on each connector, just so that just in case if it moves around, I can still fix that. Now, I've soldered one pin on each connector. I can lift it up, make sure all my connectors are all straight. If they're not straight, I can heat up that one connector and move it around so that it becomes straight. Okay, so I'm holding it, heat it up, and make sure every single one of them is nice and straight and seated well onto the PCB. Okay. Be careful when you're doing this, you might burn your thumb if you're pushing down. You might not realise that the pins do get hot. Right, now that that's ready, I'll solder the rest of the pins on. Okay, now I'm going to pop in my switch. That goes on the other side of the board. Just give it a bit of a persuasive push. Solder that in. There we go. And almost at the last stage, we're just going to put in our set of green LEDs that are an indicator. And again, there's a flat side. So make sure that flat side lines up with the flat white silk screen. Yeah, notice that they're flopping around a bit underneath there. So I'll solder one pin, hold them, refit it, and then come back and solder the last pin. They're seated nicely, so they're away from the board. Just reheat up that join, nicely seat them. Heat up that join, nicely seat them. Make sure they're nicely aligned. Go back and solder the other leg. Okay. Trim off the excess. These ones you can trim off short. Alright, so we're almost there. The last thing that we need to, well, actually it's not the last thing, but we need to do it. So I'm going to grab a screw, grab one of our standoffs, screw that in, just by hand first. So not very tight, just by hand. We're going to align all of these and then screw them in hard later. So I'll just put them in by hand, finger tight. They still can move around a little bit. There we go, okay. And we grab our battery. Now the red wire is the positive and the black wire is the negative. And what we're going to do is we're going to feed these wires in from the top. Feed them back through the hole, okay, and then feed them into their socket for where they need to go. So just into here We'll solder those on the other side. Now, as you solder these, what you might find is if you get the wire too hot, the insulation will peel back up. So we're leaving this to the very, very end, because by now you should be pretty good at soldering pretty quick now after doing all these solder joins. So that shouldn't happen. So if you're nice and quick, like what I was doing, none of your insulation will peel back. Now we'll grab these just with our fingernails and we'll thread them back to make them nice and tight. This is called a strain relief, a cable strain relief. It stops that solder joint from having to take the brunt of the force of this pulling. Okay. Next things that we're going to do is we're going to grab our two servos that we've already fixed with our wheels. Make sure that none of these connections here are actually touching each other. Okay, so just go in there, we make sure that they're nice and separated, not touching each other on here at all. Okay, nice and open and separated. Alright, and we're going to grab our motors. I'm going to pop them in. Now, prior to fixing our motors onto our board, what you'll need to have done is have trimmed your trim pot here so that it's sitting roughly in the halfway mark, so it's about 5 turns in, and they will be so that when you're sending a signal to this motor of 90 degrees, it'll be sitting stopped. Okay, so I'm going to grab a little bit of our sticky tape, double-sided tape, just going to cut a small section of that double-sided tape off. It's going to go on our PCB. Another small section. We don't need too much of it, just enough to hold it down. Peel off the backing tape. You might need your tweezers to do this. 3M tape has pretty strong adhesion to the backing tape. There we go. Try not to touch the tape, because we want it to stick really well. We don't want fingerprints on it. There we go. So we align our servo on there like so. Do the next one on our servo. The better you are and the more careful you are in aligning this servo, the straighter your robot is going to run. Okay, so we'll just give them a good squeeze. Alright. Don't put any downwards force on the robot right now, because it will break. I'm going to feed my cable tie in through the hole, over the top of the servo, and back through the cable tie, and you should hear it go zip. If you don't hear it go zip, that's why they call them zip ties. If you don't hear it go zip, you've put it into the wrong side of this. Hear the zipping? There's quite a bit, still zipping, okay? Doesn't stop after this section, it still zips. Alright, we do it up nice and tight, and that's going to make sure that that servo doesn't move now. Alright, we grab our other zip tie, do the same thing, in through this hole. Over the back of our motor. Back through the zip tie. Listen for the zip. Okay, do it up nice and tight. Okay, Now that's done up nice and tight, make sure with your pliers, alright, there we go, done, and cut off the excess. Okay, you want to leave a little bit on the end, just showing just 2 or 3 millimeters, just so that that end of the zip tie there, the little tag, holds onto the zip tie. Alright, we're almost ready to go. So now we'll just hook up our little servos. Now we're going to just wrap our wires, just wrap them around these connectors, the standoffs. Wrap them around. Brown goes to the minus, S is the orange inside there. Just plug it in. I'll do the same thing with this one, just wrap it around, around, around. So the brown is the minus, one connects into there, just push it onto our pins, make sure you got them the right way, brown, red, orange, brown, red, orange, okay? Now that we've done that, we can get the lid of our battery holder, and that's going to just go over the top, and we'll put our last 3 screws in. Don't do it up tight, just finger tight for now. We want to align all the screws and then do them all up tight after we've aligned them all. Okay, so we'll do them up tight after the alignment is done. Okay, so I can start doing them up tight. And the next thing that we need to do is grab our little Arduino. I'm going to pop that back in. Make sure the pins are lined up. USB port to the side. Battery pack. Obviously pop some batteries in it. There's your on and off switch up the top, so you can turn it on and off nice and easily. And that's it. Your little line walking robot is ready to go. Okay.